Welcome back, guys. I got something special. I got a special guest, something we've been planning for a while. Let me bring up my guest herself, Rayleigh Movies. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing today?
Can't complain. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So, are you excited as I am?
Yes, I'm always
excited.
down for a Snow White review.
Right. If you don't know, the movie is Snow White: A Tale of Terror. It's an American fantasy horror from the classic theme itself, directed by Michael Cohen, Sigourney Weaver, starring Sam Neill and Monica Keena. I think it was Showtime was the network it premiered on, 1997. This is a movie I was watching Ray's reviews, always seeing how big of a Snow White fan she was. Some just said, why don't you ask her about that movie you just watched? And this is a while ago, but I asked her about this movie in particular. I was shocked she never seen it. So
Yeah, I actually didn't even know this existed until you actually brought it up.
wow, really?
Yeah, or I found out about it slightly before you told me. I found out about its existence like right around the time we were talking about it.
I don't know why I thought it was maybe HBO, not so much Showtime. This was a movie that I used to see around on the rental shelves. I always thought it was a movie that I just missed. It went to theater theatrically, and I just missed it. But obviously not. It was a TV movie, but it seems to hold a big cult status, but not enough where I'm knowledgeable to know what it is, but not enough where I've never heard anything by it.
Yeah, with the cast, I'm surprised I didn't hear about it because this movie has a very big cast, actually, starring Sigourney Weaver and Sam Neill.
Let me just say before we start, the trailers for this movie, while they're not bad, they're not overwhelmingly. If you don't have an interest in either the actors or the story itself to begin with, I don't think the trailers are enough to get you like, oh, I want to see that. They're not bad. Why they're not bad, they're just not overly great, you know? So
It's like you can tell it's a TV movie. It would be like watching a trailer for a, what do they call that? One channel, Lifetime movie channel.
oh man, I didn't think it was that bad, but yeah.
A
Lifetime movie.
I watched the trailer once and I totally like wiped it from my mind. It was that forgettable.
It was, and I think that's the problem. I think the promotion maybe always was very forgettable, and that's why a lot of us don't know. How do you have something big as Snow White with Sigourney Weaver, but you don't know anything about it really?
Exactly.
That's weird. And this is what I'll say about the trailers. The trailer sold this movie as a scary, terrifying horror film. The way they sold this movie, I thought it would be more scary than it actually was. Not on a bad end, but the movie actually turned out better than the trailers ever showed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would have to say the movie did turn out better than I expected it to be, for sure.
So let's get into it. What did you think?
All right, so I guess we can start off with like how dark and gruesome the movie actually started out being. It first introduces us with Lily, who is the Snow White character's parents. The mother is pregnant with Lily. They get into a cart accident. The mother gets impaled chest.
I had to take that back too, because I couldn't really see it. I just see her bleeding. I don't see what's going through her. Did you have a hard time seeing that?
Yeah, it looks like she got impaled all the way through, but it didn't show wood or anything. So I'm guessing like as it was falling, something just shot through her, maybe like a shard of wood or something.
I did see wood.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Blu-ray, because I watched it on Blu-ray, it was still a bit grainy. You can tell that it's an older movie. But yeah, she actually asks her husband, who I think his name was Frederick in the movie, played by Sam Neill.
Call him Friedrich.
Yeah, Friedrich.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And she asks him to cut the baby out of her, and he does. We don't actually see him cut the baby out, but it is implied that he did because he took a knife, but then it cut away, and then you saw all the blood on the snow. And then, like, shortly after that, we meet Lily as a little girl. To be quite honest, when I was first watching this, her mannerisms and everything really highly reminded me of Danielle from Ever After. Have you seen that movie?
Funny thing is, I was looking up movies that was similar to this, and that came up. No, I have never seen
Really?
Ever After. No.
Really? Yeah. Okay, so Lily's very, like, rambunctious, you know? She's constantly messing with the staff, having fun outdoors, you know? Not really doing princess-like stuff, like Danielle from Ever After. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. And she seems to have, like, a very strong relationship with her nursemaid and with her father in general. So I was like, oh, that's cute. But then she meets Claudia, which Claudia is supposed to be the evil queen, because her father is getting remarried. Right. And Claudia seems very nice at first, you know? She's a bit strange, you
Little
know, like
off-putting.
little
Yeah.
off-putting, but she seems nice for the most part. She even gets Lily a dog, like a puppy.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a cute little Rottweiler puppy. And
Which felt out of place, though. Don't you think that type of dog in that
yeah,
time period? That reminded me that I was watching a 90s movie. Actually.
especially when Snow White in general takes place in Germany. It would be weird that it was
German
a
Shepherd.
Rottweiler, like a German
Yeah.
Shepherd probably would have fit better.
Right.
But then for some reason, this is where I started having problems with Lily as a character. She totally flips and does a 180, kind of becomes a little snob.
You think?
Like an actual like bitch, yeah. Particularly towards Claudia, and this is before Claudia did anything bad. I mean, Claudia, like I said, had, you know, gave her the weird looks sometimes, you know, she seemed a bit off-putting sometimes, but it was like during Claudia and Friedrich's wedding, Lily throws wine on Claudia.
Yeah, she wasn't having that. It was like a coffee moment when you throw coffee in somebody's face. It was like, 'cause that was like some type of ritual blessing or something, because they were doing some type of prayer while they were doing it.
It was supposed to be like I guess the castle's way of agreeing with ceremony, you know, giving their blessings to the wedding.
Just a Catholic ritual, I guess.
Yeah, and then Lily, for like no real reason, because we haven't really seen Claudia be mean in any way towards Lily, because, you know, she was like nice from the start, gave her a puppy and everything, and then Lily just throws the wine right in her face.
Right. But look, can I say this before we go any further into that?
Yes.
I feel that when we get introduced to Lily as a child, because before that she was just being born at, so to speak, we get to her and her father's like father-daughter moment. Did you study? Did you do your reading and your scriptures and all this and that? She seemed very well-mannered and pleasant. The one line she says, "Do you still love mama?" And then "Do you still love mama? Then why is she coming?" And you know, I actually felt that. I mean, I know it's a movie, it's pacing. It was like, damn, we jumped, like, we're not even 10 minutes in the movie and he's already moving on. You know, there's no in between. I know there had to be an in between because she's what? How old could she be? 5?
She probably looked like she was about 7 or 8.
Okay, 7 or 8. And so there has been 7 or 8 years actually, but we just don't see that. And it just feels she's moving on really fast. Also, too, you talk about they're doing a ritual for the wedding and everything, but how do we get there? So you mean to tell me this is her first time to that kingdom? So she's coming there for the very first time. Usually they meet. Even in arranged marriages, they have met her first time there, and she's already marrying. I mean, I know in that different day that stuff was arranged and fixed, and it was like you were to marry this one and this, and you know, but it was still meetings between the kingdoms, and it was weird that that was her very first time there and she's already getting married. So I kind of felt for the little girl, like, like I'm just meeting this girl and you're marrying her.
Yeah, and now that you bring up that scene, that was actually a very good scene between Lily and Frederick, where she's like, "Oh, if you still love mom, why are you getting remarried?" And you know, he gives his reasons. Then she's like, "Do you think she'll like me?" And then the father's like, "Oh, I think she'll love you." And then, but then that's when she smiles and she hugs her father. And I'm like, okay, I get it. She's not going to be happy about getting a new mother, but
you know, the case say kids know though. They just have a vibe. They know things. Maybe you can attribute that to that.
Yeah, there was that one scene where, you know, where Claudia was standing in the hallway with her dad, and it was shortly before Lily threw the wine on her. Well, from like our standard watching the movie, there was a lot of time, not wide time jumps, but there were time jumps, you can tell. But it was like
we don't know the depth of that scene, right? We don't really know. There could have been more to that scene. It's almost up to you to figure out where that scene went from there.
Yeah, there was that one scene where, you know, Claudia hugged Friedrich and Lily saw it from the hallway, and Claudia and Lily made eye contact in that scene, and you could tell that like there was like a tension in that scene.
Right.
But it does seem to me though that Lily was a big instigator in them not becoming closer, because a lot of the arguments and everything that occurred between them was because of Lily's defiance of Claudia.
Right. The whole time I'm thinking like, okay, how old is your daughter? Dad's moving pretty quick. But then again, that's movie. That's just the pacing of the movie. I noticed in their first meeting with Claudia that, and this is a testament to, I think, I enjoyed the costume work. I noticed how Claudia's the brightest thing on the screen, very vibrant colors, and also the daughter is just slightly just a little bit bright next to her. So it
Yeah.
highlights the scene of who these characters are supposed to be. And it felt like that's attention to detail with that's giving the scene more purpose without, it's almost like body language. They're
Yeah.
adding more to it just by that. And I thought pretty vibrant. And I thought the costumes were.
Yeah. Claudia wore a lot of reds, if I was remembering correctly, where Lily wore a lot of, actually Lily did wear a lot of reds too. She wore a lot of red, almost like a gold. Yeah.
Right. It's pretty though. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Very
I'm
beautiful
sorry.
costumes. I have to hand it to Lily though, because Lily was not the one that caused the whole situation, like in the story of Snow White, how the evil queen does become, psycho and stuff, because Lily did start feeling bad. There was a part in the movie where, she started feeling bad about the way she was treating Claudia, and this is when she was older. So this is like a big time jump. So she's maybe now 16, 15, 16. Yeah, about 16, 17. She was much older. I mean, she's still a bit defiant towards Claudia because Claudia bought her a dress and Claudia was like, why don't you wear this beautiful dress? And then Lily was like, I don't want to, There was that incident. Yeah, getting into Claudia. Claudia always wanted to be a mother. That was something was heavily brought on about this character. She always wanted to be married. She always wanted a child. She wanted the perfect family life. It seemed like she was really trying to get Lily to be more like her daughter, and Lily just was not bridging that gap. But then when Claudia suffers a very bad miscarriage, which I have to give it to the special effects again, that was
very gory too.
Gory, horrifying scene with the miscarriage of Friedrich and Claudia's son.
A lot of blood. I didn't expect that at all. Even for them to even show the aftermath of it, I didn't expect.
Yeah, and then Claudia gets the bad news that pregnancy ripped her up really bad and she became barren and she was unable to have another child. Lily hears this and then Lily starts to feel really, really bad about the whole situation. Lily does try to make amends with Claudia and she apologizes for the way she has been acted since they met. So I have to give that to Lily because it shows that Lily has a lot of empathy. Lily can be stubborn in some parts, but she really does have a lot of empathy towards people who are suffering.
When they jumped forward and all of a sudden her character was Monica Keena playing the older version of her character, I thought the first scene was very charming, should I say. I thought she fit the character well. She just she was a little bit innocent, just enough true to that character. From right out the gate, I was feeling that because I didn't know how she was going to be in this character. I know her from Freddy vs. Jason and a few other things, but I didn't know, obviously, way before that. So I didn't know how she was going to fill this character out. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought she added a touch to the character. I can't quite put my finger on it, but there was something she was adding to it. And even before the miscarriage, when that daughter sees the bird in the room, I get the notion that, is this the bird from the beginning of the movie where her mother and the cart tipped over and her mother died? Is this the same bird? So that's what I was thinking. Oh, so it shows me that this is a plan. This has been in motion long before because that bird has been
you know
watching.
what? Yeah, I didn't even think about that raven. But yeah, that raven was in that scene where Lily's
grandmother
died.
Yeah.
And it was in the room when the nursemaid died too. Yeah, we skipped that part where the nursemaid died. The nursemaid went into Claudia's room and looked upon the magic mirror. And for some reason, the magic mirror killed her. When
I wonder what that was about. Because when
I
thought they were going to make the mirror more of a character I thought they were going to direction only like maybe them two could look at the mirror. There's something special that you have to be a chosen person to look upon the mirror or else you would die. But
yeah, they never talked much about the magic mirror. I mean, I have a theory about the magic mirror, but we'll talk about that when we get closer to the end.
Yeah. The raven, though, I thought that was a linking point to show that Claudia has always been watching, even before the child was born. So that's why I don't judge Lily as harshly, because Claudia has been planning this a long time. And then, let me be honest with you. Let me just say this. Seeing Lily wore her mother's gown instead of the gown that she suggested to her, and then her father was, you think he's going to be, because they're painting the father like he's going to be totally on Claudia's side and forget about his child when it comes, but he actually caters to his child and he likes it. But the look on Claudia's face, Sigourney's face, is like she had that Joan Crawford no more wire hangers, like she wanted to really beat this child right before she had this miscarriage. And I'm like, but was it really that bad that was the last straw to your miscarriage? But I guess there's time jump, so there must have been a lot, and that was probably the straw. but I still feel, damn, that's what made you just lose your shit. It just
that scene right there also reminded me of Ever After with Danielle's character, because that's a Cinderella story, basically the same thing, evil stepmother kind of thing. It's like when Danielle's I don't want to ruin the movie for you, because you really should watch Ever After. It's a great movie. But yeah, there is a situation in the movie that's quite similar to that, where it's like the stepmother sees how much the father really loves his daughter, and the father's love for the daughter is way stronger than it will ever be for her. That just ends up being the breaking point that turns them into a monster. That scene right there, great acting by Sigourney Weaver. Like, she really looked distressed, distraught, and she was just pissed about that whole situation.
She did.
Yeah.
And shout out to whoever the casting agent was for this movie, because seeing Claudia, once you jump to Monica Keena as being Lily, seeing Claudia stand next to Lily, you realize Sigourney Weaver was cast so good because she's so dominant. She's much taller than her. Monica Keenan's very short and petite anyway, but Sigourney Weaver's especially tall. If you know, she's about 6 foot. So it's just seeing that was a really good casting paired with how she's carrying herself. So it gives you more of a, I don't want to say fear, I'm not picking the right word for this, but the force behind these two characters. And I think they're just really well cast. Just seeing them side by side.
Claudia was a very intimidating character. She gave off a very intimidating exterior, and she was perfect for the role of, the evil queen character.
I am so shocked, guys, by how much blood they actually shown, because it's just like, okay, they didn't show the father take this baby out. You think they're going to stay away from certain gore, and they kind of did, but they didn't in the scene, because you see how bloody the aftermath was of this miscarriage. And it was just, I was shocked how good it was.
Yeah, like it wasn't like House of the Dragon level when like Rhaenyra was having her miscarriage, but damn, it was pretty damn close. There was a lot of blood. We actually do get to see, slightly. We get to see the baby's corpse slightly.
Right, and then she tells her brother, "Go get the corpse." I didn't see that coming. How did you feel about they handled the remains of the baby? I mean, they threw that baby fast.
Oh yeah, they it was like they decided to burn the baby's body like immediately after the miscarriage, and Claudia was so distraught over that. She was like, don't take him away, and it's like they took him away anyway, and then they just tossed his remains into a fire. It wasn't like respectful or anything like that, and that was harsh.
Yeah, I thought that bothered me, and I was just like, well, maybe I'm tripping. I need to ask Ray how she felt about that. But I mean, they tossed that baby like it was a lumber. I was like, whoa.
I was like, damn, the baby's still warm, and you chucked him into the fire like he didn't matter. While the mother,
abuse of corpse much?
While the mother is screaming and crying that her son is dead and she just wants to hold him, and I was just like, yeah, that was rough.
What do you think is going to be better if we get rid of the baby faster? That was just, damn. That's part of the reason she didn't like them servants afterwards. We'll get into that, but
we'll get into what she did with the servants, because that, it's like, it's evil, but the way that they treated her through that entire scene, I'm like, I can get why she wanted to take a jab at the servants as well when she decided to get back at the castle.
Right. How'd you feel about the mirror for the first time? Because after she tells the brother to go get the baby, and he follows her wishes, but when they showed the mirror speak for the first time, how'd you feel?
I was shocked to see the mirror using her face, but it works because, it's supposed to be a mirror. You look into it. It reflects what's being presented in front of it. So when she was talking to the mirror, it was almost like she was talking to herself. And the mirror was more blunt and honest with how she was really feeling and her true thoughts.
Or her darker thought.
Yeah, it was like the mirror was her dark side trying to instigate her in coming out.
Right.
Where, she was almost at some points, trying to fight the bad thoughts, but then the mirror's like, no, this is how you truly feel.
I thought they handled it well. Wow, it's not, we've seen so much, so it's not going to blow our mind, but at the same time, it was kind of creepy for the first time. The way
and the mirrors seemed to show a more prettier version of herself. Her baby had just died. She'd been crying, and she goes in front of the mirror for like the first time. She looks like a wreck, but herself in the mirror was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. It was.
But every time she looks in the mirror, she's still beautiful. And
Right.
she's obsessed with her reflection in the mirror. They are keeping true to the evil queen in the sense that she is obsessed with her own beauty.
Yeah, and see, that's why I love to do this review with you, because you know the story of Snow White. I can honestly say, other than the version with Charlize Theron and tidbits of it over my lifetime, I've never even watched anything else with Snow White. So I don't know, because I'm thinking, let me ask you this before we go further. Is Lily really a character? Because they never called her Snow White. They just made a term to her mother.
Yeah.
Skin is white, lips is red. That was it.
Yeah, they never actually made any references to Snow White or the Evil Queen or the dwarves. There was like no actual like real reference from the actual Snow White story to them. They were just supposed to be like representations of this story that's quite similar to the tale of Snow White.
I mean, yeah, as you're watching it, you know what it is. Skin is white as snow. Lips is red as something. I think that was the only kind of Snow White we got in that.
Yeah, and then she jokingly makes a mistake in the story, and then Snowy, as I called her Snowy. Yeah, Snowy, corrects her because she was like, because that was the story of Snow White, like almost like the original Grimm's tale, how the queen would look at the snow. All she wanted was a child that skin was as white as snow, hair as black as coal, lips as red as, rose. The nursemaid was like, all she wanted was a son. Lily was like, no, it was a daughter. They have the story of Snow White in the story. And
but
the characters
like that.
know the story. Yeah.
Because in a way, these are real people. It's kind of like a story today. If they told us, they'll tell it differently as time goes on, and it'll be more magical. Everything. Snow White. These are really dark stories, but they tell them to us like they tell us stories of genies that are blue and Disney. Really, those are darker tales. Kind of like these are real people. Her name was Claudia. This is Lilia. As the storybook would tell you, their name is Snow White. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of like that.
So it was kind of interesting that they have the story of Snow White in the story, and that the characters are aware that this story actually does exist. Yeah, that was kind of interesting that was thrown in. Okay, so then after Lily decides to be nicer to Claudia, apologizes for everything, that's when Claudia eventually just freaking snaps. Claudia's had enough, and she's slipping into insanity. She sends her brother to go kill Lily. Her brother is supposed to represent the huntsman, but
really? I didn't know that.
Unlike the huntsman, I think the brother's name was Flynn. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm forgetting the brother's name. Gustav. Yeah, that was it. Gustav. Yeah, Flynn. I don't know why I thought it was Flynn. I didn't write him down. He's not really that. Right, yeah, he's just supposed to be the huntsman.
That's very interesting, because now that fits why she's like, go after this girl.
Yeah, but unlike the huntsman, he actually does try to kill Lily. Like, he is out for her blood, and he chases her into the woods.
Right.
And does try to stab her. He ends up losing her because she fell into like
a cave
or something,
which I thought was going to have more to the plot, and it never did. She just leaves the cave.
Yeah, it's just she falls into the cave, she gets lost in the woods and everything, kind of like, in the original story. But the huntsman didn't try to kill her in the original story. He let her go.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: do you feel that he had remorse? But is this remorse because he tried, or is this remorse because he failed and he's terrified of his sister?
That was very interesting, because when it comes to the brother, he doesn't speak or anything, so we don't really get any dialect. All we have to go is on his face expressions. I think he was terrified of Claudia, and he was only doing what she asked because she was afraid of him, and rightfully so, as we find out later. Yeah, maybe he didn't want to kill Lily, but he thought he had to because he was so scared of his sister. Because when he loses Lily, he goes and he kills a pig, and he steals the heart, liver, and lungs of a pig.
And takes it to her.
And then takes it to Claudia and tries to pretend like it's Lily. So, yeah, I think it was more because of fear than anything else.
Right. Because we're talking about this, there's certain things that's developing to me that I didn't see. It's weird that she didn't watch this play out. Like, she watched almost everything else in the entire movie play out, but it's weird she didn't watch this play out, for her to not know that he failed in killing her.
Yeah, you know what? That is strange, because that would be something I would expect Claudia to do. We know Claudia can see through the Raven's eyes because she does that spell quite a few times throughout the movie. And you would think that she would want to see Lily die.
Yeah.
Because she got all giddy and everything when she was asking for details from her brother about what happened with Lily in the woods. You think that she would have sent the Raven to actually watch it herself, but no, she didn't send the Raven at all. She totally and completely trusted in her brother to kill Lily for some reason.
I think that was for character purposes. In my opinion, I think they wanted to show you her trust in her brother so she can feel that he lied or betrayed. Because if she was watching, she would knew the whole time. She needs justification going forward to her feelings towards her brother after this. So I think that's maybe why she didn't see it, trusting into him. Also, too, when you say he was scared of her, I felt like he was more of a white magic. Because he does reach out to Lily a few times when she's young before they jump to her older version of the character. He's doing tricks with the bird and
the flowers.
Right. It looks like white magic. They probably both do the arts, him and his sister, but his sister just does it. She's somewhere with dark. And so he probably always felt it's wrung, but it's still his sister.
Yeah.
I think the intimidation is there. He's white and she's dark for magic.
Yeah. And that could also explain what Claudia said about their mother, too. She stated earlier when she was talking to her brother that their mother was never accepted in society. She was always outcasted. She always wondered how her mom would see her now since she was able to get accepted by society. So maybe, they come from a long line of magic users.
Is it me? Let me tell you this little tidbit. When she was running in the woods she's trying to dodge Gustav, the brother. She's trying to dodge him and lose him. But once she does, she's continuing to run. Did it not feel like she was going to stumble upon a house like Hansel and Gretel?
Yeah.
A gingerbread house. It just felt like they were getting ready to take the story there, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute, wrong story, wrong movie. Because I don't know, I just expected her to wind up at this house with some Hansel and Gretel stuff. But it's funny how this movie gives you feelings of, like you said, the ever after story, gives you feelings of other stories in there. But I guess they're a lot similar because they are by the Grimm brothers, right? So
similar. Well, in the original story, she does come by the dwarves' cottage in the story, but not in this movie. Okay. In this movie, she stumbles upon like some kind of castle that the dwarves are in. Yeah. Well, you want to put them dwarves in quotes because not all of them were like short. They were. It was just like it was 7 men, but some were short, some were tall, but they were supposed to represent the dwarves,
which was cool. I thought it was a cool take on it in a way. By the time the story gets to us 100 years later, they were all dwarves. You get what I'm saying? How we take liberties and we twist the story, but that was the real story. They were men like that. There was one. But before you get there, you want to stay on the brother selling to kill her.
And so after that whole situation where he tricks Claudia into thinking that he killed Lily, Claudia then orders Gustav to take the lungs and the liver to the kitchen and add it to the stew. Yeah. Which I was, oh my God, I could not tell you. I was like, oh my God, they're going there. That was in the original story where the evil queen actually cannibalizes Snow White, or what she believes to be Snow White.
Right.
Yeah, they added.
Didn't throw you though? Well, you know the story, so it's not big a surprise to you as it probably was to me. But I was
I was just surprised they went there because like every Snow White tale that you watch, they never categorize the evil queen as being a cannibal, when in all reality she was a cannibal in the original story. But what was gross about it was that she served what she thought to be Lily to her father. Yeah.
That was crazy. No, but you know what? I was like, what the fuck? But this is what got me. She's having a what the fuck moment dancing around with this pork. Like in her room, like rubbing it all over her body. I'm just like,
she was rubbing the heart. Yeah, she was rubbing the heart all over her body and dancing with the heart. Yeah. The heart was the only thing she kept. She sent the lungs and the liver into the stew, in which she really thought that her and Frederick were eating Lily. I was just like, wow.
She's enjoying this meal.
She was like, this is so good. And poor Frederick's just in the corner worried about Lily because Lily hasn't come home yet.
And then he's looking at her though too. Why is this so good? Like, it's all right. It ain't all that.
Yeah, and I was just like, that really brought out just how sick Claudia was.
Right.
And I have to admit that was really dark. I mean, it's bad enough like the evil queen thinking that she ate Snow White, but feeding Snow White to her father?
Yeah, that's not in the book.
That's not in the book. That took it like to a whole new extreme. Like,
yeah, that was some dark shit. was.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
beyond the original. That's like a step above the original Evil Queen right there.
Okay, that's a step beyond. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
like, wow, she turned on this girl, and now where in her mind did she choose to eat her? That's all I was thinking.
Yeah, I was just like, I can't believe they're doing that. And then when they did it, and then when they brought Frederick into it, I was just like, that's evil. That's straight up evil. But then from there, it's like, then we get kind of like a jumping back story between Lily and Claudia. We get to see Lily react with the dwarves, and she doesn't like them.
No, I don't like them either.
Yeah, she didn't like the dwarves at first, and the dwarves did not like her. Actually, from like what I got from my notes, the only reason why the dwarves held on to her was because they were going to ransom her back to her father. But then they just don't.
Right.
And I actually put in my notes right here why with a question mark, because I don't know if I missed it. Did you catch it? Why did they decide not to do that?
Well, there was a scene where the one that she, Will, the main one, at some point been in the background trying to calm these guys down, and seems like he's thinking about ransoming her. He takes a liking to this girl, so I think that's where it is. Once they got rid of that bad apple, which was weird, because one of the dwarfs guys, he was a slime ball. He tries to basically rape her. I was a little thrown off by that, but I was like, okay, so really it's 6 dwarfs if you think of it, right? Wasn't he one of the 7th, or was
he was one of the 7. He got outcasted. They told him to leave. Will told him to leave, and then the other ones just agreed with him because they were just like, we don't want any of that.
Right.
And then
they
the just kind of let her stay.
So I guess when they seen he isn't too keen on doing whatever they want to do to this girl, they just follow by example, follow his lead. And I guess if you really watch this movie, she was with them some time. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like a day or two, but she's with them some time. So I guess they became accustomed to this girl.
They tried to do a little bit of character development. So this became one of my problems with the movie, was when they introduced the dwarves. Clearly, you're seeing that they're spending a lot of time together, but we're not seeing it. So it's like their relationship grows stronger. She starts to talk to them, learn their stories and things like that.
Right.
In my opinion, it wasn't done very well because we did not get to experience her growth with the dwarves. So it's like we didn't share the same love for these characters as she did.
See, I can't penalize the filmmakers for that, because as we get to this point, we've seen it done with the child and her father. We've seen it done with Claudia's relationship with Lily.
Yeah.
And so they take that same liberty here, but I just feel like since they didn't put something there, they didn't really make it noticeable. The relationship between Claudia, she becomes a girl. And the relationship between her dad, she was a baby in her mom's womb, and then all of a sudden she's about 8 years old. So there's a time jump. But it's in Dwarfs, is it 2 days? It's just like, how long was she out there? And also, too, I think she takes a liking to them because at the end of the day, this is a girl. She's under 18. She's already a sweet girl. She's very trusting, a little too trusting, which is weird because she's so trusting, but she's never been trusting to the evil queen. So, I mean, take that if you will. But she's so trusting to these guys who wanted to chop her hand off for a piece of bread, and just stuff like that.
It's just, they were very terrifying upon first meeting them. Like, they were so hostile. And then it was just all of a sudden they're friends with like little growth in between. Yeah.
And I get it on her end, but I think it's more like you say, like, all right, well, what about them? What changed them? And I would just have to looking at it, them just following their leader's lead, because he was clearly the leader of them. Maybe that's what did it. Then you kicked out the outcast, so he's like the poison in the group. There's nothing there to combat that, So
and we did get a little bit of a backstory with Will, the dwarf that Snow or Lily ends up falling in love with. Yeah, it's strange that she fell in love with one of the dwarves instead of the prince character, which we haven't been talking about. But yeah, there is a prince character. His name is Philip.
He's very forgettable.
He's very forgettable. Yeah, but with his scenes with Lily, you can tell that they really like each other and that they really get along. They've known each other for a long time.
Right.
It was almost to the point where they were going to get married. But then she up and leaves the prince for the dwarf, which I could
see how it played out. I mean, love is love. The funny thing is, the whole time I'm like, they're just gonna like each other. This is puppy love. This is not gonna go anywhere. I would have thought father ain't gonna let this be, even if it was
Yeah.
supposed to marry a prince. But the prince, he's good with her, but she's more noticeable in the scene she has with this prince than he is. So, like I
Yeah.
said, he's very forgettable. So it's just as you're going on this journey in this movie, you still root for Will. He's not a prince. He's the underdog, and you spend more time with him than the prince.
Yeah, it's just I think that they should have spent a little bit more time with Lily and Will to build a better relationship. But I get it, the runtime of the movie, it's a TV movie. They don't have a whole lot of time.
Right.
But yeah, we do get a little bit of a backstory on Will, and it's kind of a dark backstory. It was surprisingly dark, if I'm remembering it correctly. It was a good story, and I think it would have been a better story for a more major dwarf, because they were talking about how this one dwarf, his parents were like killed by the Inquisition,
right?
Because
being her father.
Yeah, and he refused to bow to the religious dogma and stuff like that, and then they burned him for his crimes, and I was just like, wow, that's...
But it was all because he didn't want to go to war or pick up and fight in the Crusades.
Yeah, he didn't want to fight in the Crusades either, yeah.
Yeah, that's her father, the Catholic Crusades, the religious thing. And these are all little tidbits also, too, that I think was well placed, because they do, where you don't get a lot with the father, you do get how religious he is from the moment he instills studying the scriptures with his daughter. He's always praying for a boy. Oh, I found that funny, too. He always wanted this boy. I'm like, wow, he does really want a boy, doesn't he? And so, but that's always been instilled. So to finally get to this moment to hear that her father did this, they didn't stay on it too long, but like, these is your father's men in kingdoms that, did this to these people that you're with.
Yeah.
But I think it was correct when I look at it. They probably couldn't give that to Will because a lot of tug of war,
they would definitely need more screen time to, fix that hole. Yeah. Okay, so so then we really didn't get too much backstory on Will, because there was another scene where he was talking to Lily. He was talking about how he was an underdog, how he was never wanted, and stuff like that. And of course, Lily, because Lily feels bad for all these people. She feels bad for everybody who's going through a rough time. She just sits there and sympathizes, nods her head to everything they say. So we get like that little tidbit, but there really wasn't too much with the dwarves to work off of to make them extremely well-rounded characters.
But that was a critique of mine. While that is very true, I think they gave us enough, though, considering the runtime, enough to care enough about them to place their part in the story. Like you said, there's only 3-4 main characters. At the end of the day, you still care enough. They're there. They do hold some purpose to this story, because even though they're essential to the original story, in this movie, character-wise, you could take them or leave them, but they still do have a purpose at the end of the day. But it really just feels they were there to serve tradition, a little bit of tradition, like, oh, Snow White in the doors, but also to give her a love interest somehow. Can I jump back for a second? The scene between Claudia and Gustav, her brother, when she realizes he failed, which she always knew in the back of her mind when he handed her that. But then it just clicks, and it's a realization.
Yeah, it ends up being the mirror that tells her that it's like, come on, you know that that's not real.
Yeah, she wanted to believe. So it was like her real self wanted to believe her brother accomplished this, but she always knew when he handed it to her. Now he's a traitor to her. So I'm like, wow, damn, you really went harsh. He failed at your task, but he's a traitor now? But okay. So he's a traitor. It felt like the way they painted this scene, it was a perverted, twisted way of how they twisted the story of it. Felt like a Judas thing. Depending on, I don't know if you ever watch biblical movies, sometimes they paint that as when he portrays Christ to go to the cross, he hangs himself because he's being tortured by evil force or by Satan. So it drives him to kill himself. So him being guilty, they did that here. I think it really fit the character well. I just felt disappointed that, damn, your brother is that bad of a traitor. Send him out again. Like, he's really that. And now I know why he was scared of her. It's just one task, and then one time he failed. It's like
one fail, you're dead.
But they handled that well. Just him being haunted by her and all of that. Maybe because I'm used to seeing it in biblical movies, but they pull from a lot of places in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I put here that it looks like Claudia killed her brother, because she could have used magic on him too. It was not really clear if that's what she did. She was the one that kept saying traitor, traitor. And then it was like, and then it goes to her brother, and he's in a tavern getting wasted.
But he's seeing the spider come out his hand. So there's a connection there, or there's a spell
doing
there.
Something. Yeah, because you're right. She made the spider come out of his hands.
Yeah, he's being haunted, and he's seeing her. It's either a connection, something that they've never shown us, or a hold that she has over him, or something. But it's something there.
But he ends up taking a knife and he guts himself.
Yeah, she loves guts, I guess.
Yeah. But it was. I felt bad for Gustav. I really did.
Yeah,
he seemed like an innocent guy that was just dragged into a bad situation and then got killed because he failed.
Basically. But I didn't mean to take us back so far. So to the dwarfs, now I hate calling them dwarfs, but
that's who they're supposed to be. Yeah.
So we get to a scene where Claudia finds them through this bird again, this damn bird, this raven. How do you feel about that? Now she's attacking them. She's just collapsing the whole force on them. How do you feel?
Now, that was interesting because through in the original story, the evil queen never, ever presented herself to the dwarves. She always went after Snow when Snow was alone. So Claudia just going apeshit and trying to kill them all at the same time was kind of interesting. Yeah, because she tries to kill them with a cave-in, and then she collapses in a forest on them.
Right. She's dropping trees on them. And let me ask you this. Do they see her, or does Snow White even see? It's just something collapsing on her. What are we seeing here? I don't know. I don't know if they know what's going on.
I don't think Lily and the dwarves necessarily knew. Until they noticed, until one of the dwarves noticed the raven, and he stated that ravens were very bad luck. And I guess when all that bad stuff started happening, one of the dwarves figured out that it might have been the raven, because he kills the raven when the trees were falling.
Now, I know they got to know something's happening. It's more than one tree, two trees. All these trees are falling, so I know they know. I truly believe, as we're watching that scene through Claudia's eyes, I'm sure Lily knows what's happening, but at the same time, when you think about it, does she really know the extent? There's never really been any scene to show that I saw Claudia doing magic. She's powerful. I know she's this. I know she's that. It's really just her sending things after this girl. You really don't know that she acknowledges who this queen really is. She just acknowledges she's my stepmother and I don't like her.
I don't even really recall Lily talking about Claudia at all to the dwarves.
At all.
So they shouldn't know anything about what's going on when it comes to the evil queen. Then on the other hand, would Lily really know? Because as far as Lily knew, when Lily apologized to Claudia and Lily had that moment where, Claudia accepted her apology and was being very sweet, saying that, oh, you're such a lovely girl and things like that. Her really connecting, Gustav's murder attempt to Claudia is not too far-fetched. She really would have no reason to really think it was Claudia.
Right.
Which reminds me, because when they finally do go back to the castle, Lily's like, oh, she's expecting me and stuff like that. So it was like, it tries to play off like Lily always knew it was Claudia, but the dwarves shouldn't have known anything because she never mentioned Claudia, not once, to the dwarves.
Right. But I can see how she comprehends that and puts that together after this long journey, everything she's going through. Like, yeah, she's expecting me. After all this, you have to know that she's a force. For all she knows, her brother came after me. Doesn't mean she's son her, but then again,
And the only sense that Lily got that magic could be involved with Claudia was with her nursemaid when her nursemaid died after looking in the mirror.
Right, which they just bypassed because she just jumped to an older age afterwards. So you don't know the feelings of that anyway. But so she kills one of the dwarfs, which I thought was sad. I was going to say when she kills the dwarf,
Claudia kills like 2 dwarves by the end of there's like 4 dwarves by the end of the movie. Claudia starts catching bodies.
Right. But the one in particular she killed last, that's the most connection other than Will that she had with any of them. When he dies, I still felt sad for him. So it showed me that while these characters didn't have enough time to develop on screen, they did have enough time for you to care. So it was just, that's why I said they were overly developed, but they were there enough. And I think that's a shout to the story, whoever's telling the story and directing this, because it's hard to give people that feeling and make people care just enough to get your story where it's going without it being hollow in such a little time. My biggest critique of this story was whether you like it or you don't like it. This should have been a miniseries.
Yeah,
really.
It was definitely brushed.
You could have got a lot more. You could have, while as good as CLAUDIA was and wherever characters you filled, you could have gave the father, the dwarfs more, and you could have actually elevated LILLI a little bit more. I think people would grow to appreciate her character just if she had a little bit more. Whereas this should have been, in my opinion, today 7 to 10, but back then I think this would have benefited from a 4 to 7 episode.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. But yeah, and it just so happened that the dwarf that ends up dying in front of LILLI, because the other dwarf got buried during the cave collapsing, and they really couldn't go back for him. It was fast, and they couldn't go back. But with the old dwarf, because he was old, he was like an old wise man, LILLI got quite a bit of screen time with this particular dwarf. And so when he got crushed by the trees while LILLI was trying to save him, that there was a bit of an emotion there. Even I felt it. I was like, dang, I liked him. So
and I think that was good. I think that was good because he didn't have enough time for him to really give you much to care for, but at the same time you did care when something happened to him. I think it worked out well in their favor.
Yeah, and then they had like a little pyre for him.
Right, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, and you could tell how much at least that particular dwarf meant to LILLI, because she actually cried over that dwarf. Whereas in the dwarf that died in the cave, that was around the time she still wasn't getting along with them. And everything, so she didn't shed a tear for that poor guy.
Right.
But
yeah, that's something we jumped over. But yeah, she killed some dwarfs in the cave, guys.
Yeah, but the old dwarf really hit LILLI when he died.
Yeah, I was feeling that one too. The first thing I said, see, this is how you tell stories to not have to be a 3 to 4 hour movie. Understand characters and emotions of movies, because it seems like back then, somewhere we lost the art in how to tell a story in under 2 hours and it all be cohesive. Despite what you think of it, its story is still cohesive enough. Today, they would have made this movie either a series or they would have made it 4 hours.
And when we see the things with the raven and the trees and the cave-in, we definitely know that CLAUDIA is a witch capable of the black arts, including necromancy. Because
you want to explain what necromancy is to people listening?
Yeah, necromancy is when you bring dead people back to life. And they don't necessarily come back the way they're supposed to. It's a perversion, basically, is what it is. Basically, she used necromancy to revive her baby.
Right. Was you like, whoa? I mean, I always thought she was going to hold on to the baby like shrine purposes, even be crazy enough to talk to her baby, but where she's literally bringing this baby back. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't think that she would. I didn't even think she would be able to get the dead body, to be quite honest, because I mean, they burned the baby in a regular fire, which means there's going to be remains, but it was like she had these like charred remains and she revived it. It was weird. It even shows a scene with her holding the dead baby while it's alive. It was pretty wicked.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about the apple?
Yes. Yeah, CLAUDIA does become the old hag with the apple. I'm usually, okay, this is the one attempt in the Snow White story that they always stick to. It's the old hag with the apple. Because in the original story, the evil queen tried to kill Snow White many ways, and it was just like it was multiple attempts that failed over and over again. Ends up always being the apple in the story that ends up being the one that gets her.
The common denominator in every story. Yeah, they never get rid of it. It's the most notable trope. But for me, which is weird, I always cross these stories together with Sleeping Beauty somehow. You know what I mean? Like they weren't, but at the same time, that goes to the writers. Their stories have all similar tropes to them.
Yeah, and it also is a big common denominator that Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, and Snow White were all written by the Brothers Grimm.
That's what I mean. So, same trope. Because everybody has a style, so there's going to be a similarity if the same person is writing it. Let me ask you this. Now, I'm not sure, so maybe you can fill this out. Is Sigourney Weaver the same girl playing the hag? Is that her too? playing?
Yeah, that is actually Sigourney
Whoa.
Weaver. Wasn't that great? That's one thing I needed to bring up. The practical effects and the prosthetics in this movie are incredible for its budget. I still have to look up the budget and find out how much this movie had, because yeah, I was like, wow, that is actually Sigourney Weaver. That's insane. She looks so different.
Dude, you know, I mean, we'll get to that, but till the end of the movie, I didn't realize that was the same person. First of all, she doesn't look as tall. I mean, she probably hunches over, but what I'm saying,
Yeah, she was a hunchback.
it doesn't feel like her at all. The makeup is amazing. For me not to know that was her at all,
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I slipping? Did you know that was her? I mean, see, you know the story, so you know it's the same person, but did that look like her at all?
It was not at first, but then there was that one scene, you know, it was right before she gave her the apple, where they were talking about, how Lily was in love because Lily had the look of love on her face, and then the hag, you know, tilts her head and then smiles. I was like, oh my God, that's Sigourney. I was just like, I recognize that tilt and smile from other movies, where I was just like, okay, yep, that's her. I know it is.
That was excellent. Whoever did that makeup they need to be, they need honorable mentions, because that was, I didn't know that was the same person. I thought that was a totally different person playing that or something. I didn't know.
Oh, so the movie had quite a small budget, actually. It was only 26 million.
26 million. Well, in 1997, 26 million probably was a lot more than it is today. 10 of it might have went to the cast. You never know.
Yeah, and it was distributed by Showtime.
So it was Polygon, which I don't see it because it says Polygon at the beginning. I think Universal owns this movie now, but Polygon was the original. I remember seeing them a lot in the VHS days, seeing their name on a lot of movies. This was clearly a movie they made independently, and TV Network picked it up. They just grabbed it like Netflix do today. They'll grab the Texas Chainsaw or something, and they buy it and they air it. They own the rights. I don't believe that Showtime funded this movie. I believe they just bought it. I really do. I have no facts on that, but that's what it feels like. Back to this apple. This apple looks suspect, right? It's like, really, Monica? She's so charming sitting at the thing. She's so pretty to me. And she's sitting there cleaning her face and everything. And then it's just this lady walks up to you. You haven't been through all of this murder, all of that. And look at her, man. And then she has this apple. First of all, this apple suspect, you even acknowledge how beautiful it is. But why isn't her apple? So she's going to give you the more beautiful apple?
Yeah, and also when she's like, I have no way to pay you for it.
Right.
And you got to think Snow White takes place in like 1500s Germany.
I think that plays into her naive. She's never been off the kingdom ground. She's lost in damn woods, which it feels like she's maybe less than a mile from home anyway. And that's another thing. That was one of the only things I didn't like about the movie. It don't feel lost to me. It feels like she's just playing up the street. This is a kingdom. You don't see your kingdom from afar. That was another thing with the dwarves. First of all, why didn't you ever just say, can you get me home? I want to go home. My father will reward you. Naturally, she would say something like that. Naturally, anybody would in that position. They found out who she was. She told them who she was. That never came up. Would you get me home? Maybe she was scared to go back home because of Gustav. Oh, yeah, maybe that's what it is. She don't know he died. Maybe I'm a little harsh on that, but it was just weird that never became a thing. Or them even saying, well, if we get you home, will he reward us? That never was ever stated. And then back to this lady with this apple. First of all, this lady, she has no dental plan.
And she's creepy. She's creepy as hell, too.
She's creepy as hell. Listen to what she's saying. You saying, why she gonna give you the better apple? You already feel a way about taking it, like you said, it's for free. And then she's gonna give you the better looking apple. And then first scenes of this movie, your father says to you, did you study your scriptures? So quite naturally, I know you guys know the story of Adam and Eve and these apples. It's just like, these don't ring bells to you, because it's really, if you looked at it, it felt like a play on, because it's always an apple, the downfall of man and woman. You get what I'm saying? So it's just like, like none of this rang true to you. Your studies, you've been studying since you were a girl. So this lady offering this apple, who is this lady? Where does she come from? First of all, and she doesn't strike you weird. That bothered me that she still ate this damn apple. It just goes to her trusting, though, I guess.
And the thing is, too, is that in the original story, it's like Snow White seems very stupid because of how many murder attempts happened and how many times she trusted a stranger and almost died. And then here comes the hag and she still trusts the hag, kind of thing. In the original story, it makes Snow White look really, really, really stupid. I actually like how Disney did their story. You know, how like it was the first attempt, you know, not including the huntsman, but it was the first attempt. Snow White was still naive, trusting, and didn't have multiple murder attempts on her life. So the old hag made sense. And her falling for the old hag in the Disney cartoon. But
that's the times. I'm sure that's the writing of the times. You know, when the story was first created, it's like, oh, make her more weak-minded, you know, and then as time goes on, they advance the character.
But no, you're right. In this story, she should have been way more suspicious, not only because she had multiple murder attempts on her life, even though Claudia wasn't right in front of her trying to murder her like she was in the story. She could tell that something was wrong, that they were being chased and haunted by this raven. They knew about the superstition behind the raven. And then all of a sudden, she just trusts an old hag who gives her an apple when they're also supposed to be religious, because they speak of the Inquisition, which means Christianity exists in their world.
The Crusades, all of that. That's big in her family. And he prays to a cross every night, her father. So, yeah.
I don't know if it would have worked if you take a realistic take to this particular story of Snow White, it wouldn't really work.
In hindsight, though, too, look, does she know that this queen have the dark art? Maybe at this point, she doesn't really even realize still freak thing. Like, this stuff is falling down, killing my friends, my new friends, or whatever. All this stuff is happening to me. Maybe she just doesn't realize that this is an evil force. I could believe that more so. If she doesn't know who this queen is and all this evil that's after her.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of destroys that, though, is because when they realized that the raven was watching them when the tree was falling, they killed the raven and then it stopped.
Right. Oh, and I was cheering when they killed this raven. I was like, finally, this fucking bird is down.
So it's like at that point, they should have. Well, maybe that's when they did realize, but then that does play. Why wasn't she more careful about the old hag? Because when she went back to the castle, she knew that Claudia was the hag. She knew that Claudia had magic at that point.
I think this evil force stuff coming after her clicks to her once she eats this apple. I think she finally gets it. And she sees that this is Claudia in front of me.
Yeah, so. and the apple in this movie is actually more accurate to the original story of Snow White than the Disney version. Because, you know, in the Disney version, she eats it and it puts her to sleep. This apple does not put her to sleep. She's awake and present through everything. She just appears dead because she can't breathe.
Oh, so she isn't breathing. So
she's not breathing. So to anybody who came across her, she would seem dead. She's not. She's fully aware of everything that's happening around her.
They have a funeral for her. They go to bury her after this. Mr. Prince Charming comes back. He finds her, and him and the dwarfs, they bury her, and he's more adamant in burying her than the dwarfs are, which is a character where they're trying to make you not like him more because he was supposed to be with her, and all of a sudden she's liking this dwarf instead, Will.
Yeah.
See, you telling me she couldn't breathe, but in my opinion, it looked like she was alive, like she was like in a comatized state, but she looks like she's there, and it looked like they were really burying her alive to me.
Yeah, it was when her eyes came open because they closed her eyes because when she went into the trance, her eyes were open.
Right.
And then it's like they shut her eyes and then they were going to bury her, but then when they dropped the dirt on her, her eyes snapped open, and then that's when the dwarf was like, wait a minute, she's still alive. And then he starts shaking her, and then the apple falls out of her, which is how it goes in the original story.
Do you like that, though? You like that, how that played out?
I kind of like what Disney did better. That is more truthful to the original story of Snow White, because when Snow White ate the apple, it's not like the apple put her in a sleep. It did exactly what it did in this movie. The apple was in her and when it was removed, that's when she woke up.
And I thought that was cool. From biting it, I would have thought she ingested it. It was in her throat, so once it did come out, she was okay. If she would have ingested this into her stomach, she was a goner. So I felt like that fit, that it could just come out like that, and then all of a sudden she was okay. I thought that was fit better. But I'm not a Snow White expert like you, but I thought that was a cool thing. I also like I like what they used to bury her. The church, I guess they got that from one of the old castle windows or something.
Because it looked like the water stained glass that you see on churches.
Yeah, the church window, like that castle when they first met her, it looked like they grabbed it from there.
So yeah, they still did put her in a glass coffin, like, you know, the original story and everything. It was just prettier because it was colorful.
I thought it was cool, though. I thought that was cool. When you think about what this movie is and the budget, I thought that was kind of cool to repurpose that.
I have to say, like the practical effects, the prosthetics, the set designs, all
The
very good in
costumes,
this movie.
really
The
good. 'Cause
costumes are
her
really good.
costume before Gustav tries to kill her is very nice. I'm just like,
Oh
this
yeah,
stuff
very
really
pretty.
fits this period. And while she and Claudia does stand out among everybody else, they even fit their roles, the servants and everybody that you see. Only 2 scenes took me out of this movie where I was like, oh, there it is. One of them trees when they fell down looked very bad CGI. Not all of them, but there
Yeah.
was this one tree that fell. I was like, that was bad. And
Oh,
then
there was that one scene where they found Snow in the forest, and she had those birds around her. Those birds were horribly put in.
I didn't catch that. Damn, right? I didn't see
That was
that.
another thing that stood out. Yeah, because
I've
you
seen it,
mentioned the
but I didn't see it
tree.
looking bad.
Yeah, you
Okay,
mentioned the
I thought
tree,
they
and
were
I was
real
like,
birds.
they were real birds, but it was like they were
Yeah.
rendered in, and you could tell they were. It didn't look like it was part of the screen, part of the scene.
That scene when Claudia first comes to the movie and they show her to her room when she first comes to the kingdom, and there's a picture of Lily's mom or something.
Yeah.
It looks like something that was
Yeah.
hot in '95 maybe on the older computers that they just rendered, and they thought at the time it was like, oh, this looks very medieval times. This looks nice, and it just that took me out. I laughed so hard when I saw that. I was like, yo, that was bad. But other than those 2 scenes, I don't know about the birds. They didn't do that for me. But other than them 2 scenes, it was the only scene, and they're minimal. That's just me just laughing at shit.
But I was just like, yeah, those are something I can see them having to do, like, you know, and like some kind of computer generated work for, because you can't just go around dropping trees.
No, but the other ones didn't look
I mean,
as bad.
they used real animals. Yeah, they used real animals on sets, like the wolves, the horses, and everything like that were all real and on set with the actors. I don't know why they couldn't use the birds either. Yeah, you should go back and watch the scene with the birds. It's horribly rendered. But yeah, other than that, the movie looks great. I mean, it does look like a really good movie. Like,
so where were we? We was the apple comes up, right? So they get the apple out of her.
And then that's when she decides to go back to the castle. So she ends up leaving the dwarves, and she goes with Prince Philip back to the castle. And that's when Will the dwarf ended up following them and somehow meeting them there at the same time without a horse on his own. You know, a weird, time inconsistency of how he could have kept up with a horse. But anyway, Will's there too.
Well, what's up with her pushing up on him too? Claudia had to push up on Lily's man. She just had to do it.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that happens in the original story, though. Where the evil queen...
She's the husband in the original story. Okay.
Yeah, where the evil queen tries to flirt with the prince, and it gets the prince on her side to help her try to find Snow White. That actually does happen. So yeah, but yeah, you're kind of like, it's still like, oh, what the hell is she doing kind of thing. But yeah, that is something that she did do.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It fits her character. She's wicked. Why wouldn't she just push up on somebody? I mean, what else? I mean, she's killing people. Like, why would that be out of range? But it's just, she had to do it. He didn't find it weird that
the evil queen was trying to like push up on him to try to find Lily.
And now go find your girl. And like, was that a spell? Because she see through his eyes all of a sudden? Because all of a sudden she felt so aware once he went looking for her. I don't know. They didn't dive into that.
They didn't really dive too much into whether or not if Philip was actually under Claudia, was actually under a spell from Claudia. Basically, his whole point was to go out and try to find her and bring her back. So he, in the end, did exactly what Claudia wanted him to do, but it just ended up not working too well for Claudia because they came back knowing full well what was happening, and then they ended up fighting.
Not to mention, next time I do a review, I'm escape the movie. I felt like I missed things and had to jump back. Not to mention, Claudia killed all of the kingdom, all the servants, everyone.
Yes. Yeah, we did skip that. Claudia, puts like some kind of spell on everybody in the castle. I think they're dead because of the way that they act. It looks like a necromancy where
she put something in their food when the cook, I think, Olivia, some with an E. I forget. I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Was it Elsa?
I think it might be Elsa. First of all, she yanks her up by her hair and is like, "Look, husband, don't be tempting my man." You know, she's like, "Cover your hair when you go serve my husband his food." But that's the scene where she drops poison or whatever she's dropping into the food. And the weird thing is, I didn't see her killing everybody. I thought maybe that was either a control thing. I didn't think it was going to kill everybody. What the hell? And They are dead because there's a scene. It's very dark, but there's a scene where there's a bunch of bodies on the floor as they're going through the castle. So they're dead. But which was weird is that everybody died, but the girl she grabbed up, she didn't die. She almost was like possessed. I thought that was the biggest plot hole. Why was she so specially not? She didn't die like the rest of everybody else.
But she didn't look right. Like she looked like she was. Yeah, like you said, possessed, or like she could have been dead, but was being controlled by necromancy magic. Yeah. Because she looked like she was rotting to me.
Yeah, it was just weird. And out of all of them to pick, she was the one that really didn't seem like she liked it, CLAUDIA, but yet she was defending her in the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was weird too because she ends because Lily, she really freaking hurt Elsa, and then it was like she turned and ran away, didn't even really give much thought to Elsa, even though Elsa was supposed to be like her closest handmaid. She really didn't seem to have a whole lot of empathy towards, you know, taking out Elsa's eye. She was probably in flight mode trying to get to her father because at this point CLAUDIA was trying to sacrifice Friedrich for
her baby. The mirror told her to sacrifice, basically get his blood to bring this baby back. And she was like, oh, hell yeah. You know, it was something new. She didn't know she could bring this baby back. How'd you feel about that sex scene? I was just like, okay.
It was very, a bit awkward.
It was. I was just like, okay, you're just ruining sex here. But
and it was also because Friedrich had a broken leg at that point because he fell off his horse.
He was liking it though.
Yeah, he was in pain and everything. But then she just comes in like because she just found out about this spell. She was like, "I can bring back my dead son. Hell yeah!" And then she comes in there and she's like all high on that idea, and it was like, she wasn't acting
he's like,
right.
Where have you been? And so it tells me that some time went past. So he's been alone. Nobody's answering his calls. He doesn't know everybody's dead. That the castle is so dark. He doesn't know.
Yeah, it's like, he doesn't know that I killed everybody in this castle.
He's so hollow as a character. While he wasn't as hollow where he was going to be against his daughter once CLAUDIA came, he wasn't that hollow, which I was expecting, which I was proud he wasn't. Everything else, he's just so unknowledgeable all of a sudden. You moved on very quickly in this movie to fall in love with this woman, but you stopped looking for your daughter very fast. Why didn't you keep sending people out to look for her? I don't understand that. It just didn't sit right.
At some point, CLAUDIA put some kind of spell on him to make him think that Lily was dead. Right. That was after the fact of, I think, everyone dying, though. Right. Because there was that one scene where he was lying in bed and he was calling for assistance and nobody was coming and he was just laying in bed, unable to do anything.
But I've seen him walk on that broken leg a couple times. So it's just, I don't know. I was thinking the whole time, why would you want a kingdom with nobody to rule? She killed everybody at the time of this happening. And then, so this is so she can do what she wants to do without any interference, I'm guessing. But then again, no, because she just found out about this spell. So when she killed the servants, she didn't have that idea.
Yeah.
Well, she just went really nuts. She killed everybody. What was that about? She really was wicked.
I have to say, CLAUDIA went absolutely crazy because some of the stuff she didn't make any sense from like an outside perspective. To her, it made sense. It made complete sense to her. You're just watching her going, what the hell is she doing?
And she kills Prince Not So Charming. She just like tosses his ass.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was him. David Conrad, he was in Ghost Whisperer. So I couldn't even tell that was him. And I really love Ghost Whisperer. It's one of my favorite shows. I couldn't tell that was him.
He was just kind of there to be like Lily's
story.
to be Lily's husband in the beginning, but then that ended up not happening because she fell in love with the dwarf character, Will.
Yeah. It seems like he was almost there just to keep a little bit true to the original story. But I like David Conrad, but I'm sorry, dude. It was nice to see Lily finally fight back. She's so naive and sweet and whatever you want to call it through the whole movie. But then when she fights Elsa in the hallway, she finally, it's just like, it's believable. Unlike character in Huntsman, I didn't believe any of that.
Yeah, like Monica Keene was definitely a much better Snow White for sure.
Right.
And also, I like how Lily actually meets CLAUDIA when they actually come face to face to fight off. CLAUDIA was actually kicking her ass. Like, Lily had no fighting under her belt, nothing, no way to defend herself. CLAUDIA was getting the best of her throughout the fight.
Right. Which is only right. I know she's the bigger force, dominating. She's physically bigger than her. It would be very weird in character if she was all of a sudden this great warrior, like she was just kicking her ass. I didn't expect her to get more than a hit or two in on CLAUDIA.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like, she showed up there with the crossbow. The crossbow got taken out of the battle very early by CLAUDIA, but it didn't matter because she didn't even touch CLAUDIA as far as I can remember.
But when she revealed that she was the old lady, like looking at my notes now, that's when it hit me that, oh, that was Sigourney. That's where I never knew until that moment when she changes back to that lady and she reveals that was her. But like seeing that made me like, well, I hate the fact that we're cheering for the villain, but Jesus, the villain wasn't everything in this movie. I don't know.
Sigourney Weaver was the reason why that character ruled. Sigourney Weaver just pulled off the evil queen so well. But then how Lilly ends up winning the fight is, I don't know. I think she got confused. The mirror somehow got involved in the fight.
Well, remember, before the fight started, she's trashing every mirror in the room before she gets to the
starts
main
breaking the mirror because I think she might have had a flashback to the mirror killing her, or she might have recalled the mirror killing her nursemaid. So she ends up start breaking the mirror, but that's when CLAUDIA comes in. And then the fight happens, but it was just kind of like, I don't know, it seemed almost like an accident that she ended up stabbing the mirror instead of CLAUDIA.
Not for me. For me, it felt like it clicked to her all of a sudden because you got to think, she's breaking every mirror, and then CLAUDIA comes out, then the fight jumps off. After she's getting her ass kicked for so long, it dawned back on her like, oh, there's only one mirror left.
Oh.
Because because
it was just kind of
like she looks at her, and then she looks at the mirror and stabs the mirror.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was also writing, so maybe I missed it because I heard CLAUDIA yell or scream. And then Lilly turns and looked behind her, and then she saw CLAUDIA screaming behind her, and that ended up being the mirror. She stabs the mirror, and when she stabs the mirror, it ends up stabbing CLAUDIA too.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I reinterpreted. You know how when something's not right in front of you, you might reinterpret it.
Maybe she was targeting the mirror, realized it was the mirror targeted. I don't know. It's like it was happening fast because they were fighting. And then it was just all of a sudden she heard screaming. She turned and she looked behind her, and then CLAUDIA was behind her screaming, and then she stabbed, and it ended up being the mirror. And because she killed the mirror, it ended up killing CLAUDIA. And, yeah, and CLAUDIA.
Screaming, what have you done? What have you done? I'm just thinking the whole time, like, what did you do? Like, I mean, it was just, in my opinion, this is the best scene in the movie, practical effect wise. Like it's they sold this movie to be more horror than it was. This legitimately was the biggest horror scene, in my opinion, of the whole movie. The way they handled it, the effects, how she disintegrated, and wow, you hear the growls, you could just see the wickedness burning. Like I thought they handled that well. I thought that was the best Evil Queen death scene I've ever seen, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was kind of like I don't know if you watched Tangled, but it was like watching the stepmother Mother Gothel. It was like watching Mother Gothel die, and it was all because of the mirror getting destroyed.
Right. The fire,
which makes me think that the mirror was a part of her.
Probably.
That she was the mirror.
It should have been a miniseries.
Yeah, they could have elaborated on the magic mirror a little bit more, but after seeing like, oh, what you do to the mirror also happens to CLAUDIA, that it's almost like kind of like a Harry Potter Horcrux thing going on. Like it's a part of her, and if you destroy it, then you destroy her.
You know, the thing about the mirror is, out of every Snow White story I've ever seen, this felt the mirror didn't play a big part in the story. But sometimes I've seen them twist it where Snow White it'll be eventually her mirror. And since she's good-hearted, the mirror will be good to her. If a person's a dark person, it'll elevate that. If you're a good person, it'll elevate that. But to be honest, the mirror is a character itself in this film. But at the same time, other than it killing her, it didn't feel important to the story. Usually they put more emphasis on the mirror, what the mirror is and how it came to be and what true hold it is. But they don't seem to do that other than just making it so that if you destroy this, you kill her. But why?
Yeah, that's why they could have elaborated on it more. Like, why does killing the mirror kill her? Like, how are they connected? Yeah, that it didn't explain that at all. It just explained that the mirror was like more or less her evil inner dialogue. It was egging her on to do evil things, even if she originally protested to the idea the mirror would egg her on to do it.
Like, and maybe if they showed something, her being so vain and so just caught up with her own beauty. She does have a thing about herself. So maybe if they would have showed us a couple minutes of why she was infatuated with the mirror, maybe we would understand why this mirror is so important. Like, I think we only understand this mirror is important because we know the story of Snow White. If you come into this movie and never knew a thing about Snow White, you don't understand why this mirror is what it is.
And also it's strange because the mirror is also the reason why Claudia wanted to kill Lily in the first place. It wasn't because Claudia was obsessed with Lily being more pretty than she was. That wasn't the thing. The reason why she ended up wanting to kill Lily was because the mirror convinced her that Lily was responsible for the death of her child.
Right. Which back kicked the mirror in its ass, because if her human part of her didn't kick in for this love of this child she lost, that mirror probably wouldn't have never got destroyed. She goes to save this baby, and that's where this opening comes for her to destroy this mirror, because Claudia runs to protect the baby instead of the mirror. See, I
forgot about that. You reminded me, because the dead baby started screaming and crying because of the fighting, and Claudia rushed.
It was catching fire.
And Claudia ran to protect her baby and left the mirror to be destroyed. As she should, but the human element over succeeded in that moment. But at the same time, it's funny because that's how the mirror got her to do what she was doing. Yet that was the mirror's demise. So it really comes full circle, actually. So I totally wasn't thinking about the part where Claudia went to protect the baby over the mirror.
Which opened her up, because had that baby not been there, or she just chose not to defend that baby, that girl wouldn't have got to that mirror, I don't believe. She
wasn't so driven by the maternal instinct of wanting to be the perfect mother, have the perfect family, have a child to love and care for. She would have been more focused on saving her own life and protecting the mirror, like you said, than protecting
that's good writing, though.
A dead baby. I mean,
or good directing. I don't know, both maybe.
I mean, it is overall like a good story, and it does give like a lot of it does humanize Claudia a little bit, you know, where sure, she's evil, but her evil was coming from the mirror. Like her temptations to do evil things was all being fed to her.
But that's the plot hole, really, because we don't know, is the root of this evil the mirror, or was Claudia always this dark and she created this mirror and the mirror became a thing because of her darkness, or did the mirror was always evil and it made her darker? Like, you know, some people like those plot holes, but some people like to know, like, how did this mirror come apart? I would like to know.
I would like to know too, but it does make sense how, like, the mirror she is the mirror, basically. The mirror is just her dark side, where Claudia was more of the human side. And when she feeds into the darkness and lets the darkness control her mind and things like that, she goes insane.
And it is a horror movie after all, so they're going to make the mirror evil. You know, they're not going to make it so, if Lily was to have this mirror, it'll be a good mirror. So it's just
they didn't play on the idea that the mirror could be different depending on who is the owner.
Right. We're basically at the end. So did you like the fire? Did you like how it was handled? Did you think that was the best thing, like I did, or what?
The fire worked. I couldn't tell if it was practical, or if it was practical to the set, like it was a controlled fire, or if it was rendered in. But if it was rendered in, it didn't have that rendering effect like it did with the birds that I caught earlier. So it could have very well have been real, because it did look real. It looked like it was actually there.
So we get to the end. That's basically the end, folks. But
then she saves her father. Yada yada yada.
Now, what I will say about that biggest fail of the movie is the ending. First of all, they could have gave us an extra 3 minutes, gave us a little 2 weeks later, a month later, maybe they get married, or maybe giving her away. Maybe they're sitting at a dinner, everything's okay, they getting the kingdom back together, rebuilding. You end this movie off with the last line of this movie is, "It's snowing." I thought it was terrible. I thought it was terrible. That's it. That was all the dialogue after all this movie. That's how you end your movie. And it's like, oh, it's snowing, then we close the movie. But in hindsight, as I was reviewing this with you, and you were talking about the snow on the ground, this and that, and you said there was snow at the beginning of the movie, or something like you said like that, and it made me think, oh, well, they did in the movie saying it's snowing, then all of a sudden it starts snowing. Still, they could have ended, even with a better line, they could have ended. Only thing to say it was how they closed it, the graphic with the mirror.
It was just strange that ended up being like the father's last line and his reaction to what just happened.
Exactly.
Like, you
in
got
the last
you,
line in the
it's
movie.
like you got to think this was like right after Claudia just got killed. As far as he knows, Claudia just tried to kill him. Okay.
Right.
And then now all of a sudden it's like his entire staff's dead and his daughter's alive. You think that he would have much more to say, and then go, "It's snowing."
Yeah, well, to be fair, that was Will's
But
line. It's
yeah,
snowing.
I thought it was
I
the
was just,
father. Maybe I was
I
wrong.
thought maybe I'm wrong. Still, I know for a fact it is the last line of the movie.
Yeah,
And
it
I'm just
is.
like, y'all could have gave this movie 3 more minutes, like a minute of ending, a little bit more, or a little bit more of a backstory on Claudia. If I'm going to be a critique, if I'm going to sit here and try to find things to nitpick, that I went with it. Overall, yeah, I truly liked it. So, how'd you feel
Yeah.
about it overall, the movie itself?
Overall, like if I went into like what I liked about it, Sigourney Weaver stole this entire movie.
She is
for
the movie.
one.
Right.
The Sigourney Weaver as the Evil Queen is one of the best Evil Queens. The practical effects, the prosthetics, like what they put on Sigourney Weaver to make her into the old hag, like everything looked beautiful. The sets were all practical effects and everything, but it was a very closed off movie. You didn't see a whole lot of new environments or anything like that.
Right.
There were very few environments, but they were all real set. They were actually filming outside. They used real animals. You know, they put a lot of effort into the little that they had.
Right. I appreciated that.
Yeah. It being rated R, I think also helped it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of it being rated R, they were allowed to go into the very more darker aspects of the Snow White story. It was very graphic, very gory. I didn't think it would be so gory.
Right.
It was way more gory than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised. Mm-hmm.
Snow White, even though Snow White, when it was written, it was supposed to be like a child's story. But if you really think about it, Snow White, it's a gothic horror story. It's not a children's story at all.
Right.
There's a lot of dark, horrible themes in it that this movie did jump on because of its R rating. I have to say, making it rated R helped it a lot. Like I have said, I have to go back to the Evil Queen being one step above the original Evil Queen by not only being a cannibal, but trying to cannibalize Lilli to her own father. That's dark. That's really dark.
Yeah. It was something fresh too. It was a little fresh. I don't know how many editions of Star Wars Snow White was made at that point in 97, but I still would feel that was a fresh take on the story, because even now watching it in 2023, so watching it now is just, that was pretty fresh.
And when it comes to the original story, like the Grimm's Tale, this is probably one of the closest to the original, other than there was one cartoon version I watched that was a little bit more accurate. It was for children, so it was played down a lot. Regardless, that was probably the closest I've seen to the original story. But when it comes to like live action, dark, gritty, this is the closest to the actual fairy tale I have seen. I don't have too many dislikes, to be honest.
Dislikes? See, I have one. They weren't dislikes, they were nitpicks. My biggest dislike is we need more time with Claudia. She's too good of a character. We need more time, I think, with Lilli. You would appreciate her more. More time would benefit Friedrich and Will. And Mr. Prince, not so charming. It would benefit their characters. One thing that I don't know if it bothered me or not, was I noticed they talk very modern in this movie, which is fine. Yeah. They're supposed to be speaking of people of that day, and a lot of the way they were talking wouldn't have been spoke. But yet, when they say this guy Friedrich, that's more appropriate to that day. So I just found it funny where the names are more appropriate to that day, but the dialogue isn't, with the manner of choice of words that they use. And I don't know if that would have took me more out of the movie. I understand why they did that, to keep people more engaged. This is on TV after all. They wanted to keep people engaged as possible. So I don't know if that's a bad or a good thing, but it's just something I noticed that I was just like,
Yeah, I would have to say my problems with the story are pretty close to yours too. Like, one, I think the prince was a very useless character. One of the things I had was with the time jumps, but okay, of course they have to make it fit into this movie, which I think was only like a little over an hour long. Yeah, they like had to fit this story into, you know, that time period. So the reactions and everything between Lily and the dwarves could have been better. Because sometimes I often found myself getting a little bored when Lily was in the presence of the dwarves.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't find myself getting bored with that because I felt we didn't spend too much time with the dwarfs. I thought this movie moved very well. I, for one, never at any point of this movie was bored or thought it was dragging. I thought the pacing was spot on. Of course, there's critiques and there's things you could do better or more of. I thought pacing was there and I was proud to see it. I was just like, I knew something was different from today's filmmaking to yesterday's. It's under 2 hours and they're telling this story is still cohesive at the end of the day. And it's just the pacing always kept me engaged.
I have to agree, when she first met the dwarves were interesting because I like the twist that they took with the dwarves, how the dwarves didn't like her. Dwarves didn't want her there. They wanted to punish her for stealing from them, and then they wanted to ransom her. And of course, she just was afraid of them, didn't like them, didn't talk to them. And then there was a long period of time where they were like that with each other. She slowly started talking to them, getting to know them. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just the change of the flow. Because you would jump back and forth between Lily and Claudia. She was doing weird things. And it was just like, it was almost entertaining to watch her because you were like, almost like, what is she going to do next? You're like, wow, she's crazy. And then you jump from that and you go to Lily and you go to the dwarves. It was just like, it was a drastic change. And it was like a quick drastic change because you went from like crazy to calm.
Right.
And then you would jump back to crazy to calm. And it was just like, I don't know, maybe that was more or less my problem with it.
The time jumping
the tone
in between
changes.
their relationship is the most meh.
Yeah.
You know, everywhere it's noticeable a time jump. As with them, it feels like they've been together 2-3 days. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it felt like she was with them less because according to like how the movie was set up, it was like she was with them for a really, really long time. For us, it was just like, no, it just seemed like a couple of days.
It really did. It really did. Can't make everything perfect, I guess, especially on TV.
Can't make anything perfect. But yeah, then like what you said, this probably would have benefited better as a series, like maybe a 3 or 4 episode saga instead.
4
because
at the minimum,
they could have
7 at the most. Yeah,
because they could have elaborated on
backstories,
relationships, and we could have possibly seen Lily grow with the dwarves better. Because even with that little scene that we got with the old dwarf, when that had that cute little scene together, and then not too much later he dies, it's like, oh yeah, I liked him. I didn't like to see him die. If we just had more time with her and that particular dwarf, yeah, it could have benefited better being longer.
I truly believe this movie has cutting room things. And what I mean by that is, I bet you there's 40 minutes of this movie somewhere sitting somewhere. I could just feel that there's more of this movie sitting somewhere. It's unlikely to happen, but I believe there's more of this movie cut out. A little bit more backstory, time between. It might have made the movie drag. But I bet you any money she spun more time and it was more evident with the dwarfs. But it probably got edited out. Going through my notes, Sigourney, though, her acting is so good. She has the best lines in the movie. She's so wicked, yet she's so reserved enough to keep you wanting more of her. Because that's all I keep saying is we needed more of her. That is a skill and an art in itself where you're giving them just enough, but at the same time, we want more. She did a hell of a job. Just seeing this, I can see that Charlize Theron and everything after it probably pulls from this movie because they've seen what she's done for this character. Now I can see, and despite what I think about, because I love this Charlize, I think she was the best thing in that movie.
Oh yeah, Charlize Theron's Evil Queen is phenomenal.
I think she's
the only thing I like about that movie.
Right.
The only thing.
And the graphics are phenomenal that they use for her. But looking back, because I've never seen this movie till now, she pulled a lot from this, or whoever wrote that movie pulled from this iteration of Sigourney Weaver's.
Very possible.
Because you can see it. Also,
especially the brother aspect, because the Evil Queen did not have a brother.
It seemed like that's a common trope. They always somehow include families in storylines. I can also see that if anybody ever saw this movie or know about this movie, this is why you're excited when they announced Sigourney Weaver to play the villain in the Daredevil Marvel series or any movie, because you remember what she's capable of. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I never saw this. So in my opinion, while You can say what you want about the movie, but far as Sigourney in this movie and her acting, this is one of her best performances, in
You
my
know,
opinion.
I would have to say this is the first movie I've ever seen Sigourney Weaver actually play like the villain and be like a truly terrifying and scary villain. She was phenomenal. I love her. And that's coming from somebody who absolutely loves the Evil Queen. I give Sigourney Weaver a gold star.
She just like Charlize. She was the best thing in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike that movie with Charlize, I liked everything in this movie more. Now that movie is more
Yeah.
modern. It's because it came out a few years ago, but this movie wasn't bad. It had practical effects. I truly believe Monica Keating was far better in the role.
Oh, yeah. Much better.
She was charming. I think she could have been given more for you to appreciate her, because I could see why some people wouldn't care too much for her, but at the same time, I like her. The story felt grounded. Fairy tale or no fairy tale. This iteration, I could see this being a thing. Like this could happen, opposed to every other iteration I've seen of this story.
And both Monica Keene and Sigourney Weaver were so pretty in this movie. The dresses that were made for them, the makeup, the hair, everything about them was perfect. When I saw Monica, I was like, yep, that's Snow White. I can see it. And then Sigourney was so beautiful, so charming in the beginning. She was a bit weird, but she had a charm to her. It's just she did some things in the beginning of the movie when she was still being nice, where you're just like, that's odd behavior.
She's just off-putting. Yeah, she's
just a little off-putting. But I mean, like,
but she was wicked though.
yeah, and when she became wicked, she really became wicked.
I mean, you say when she became wicked, but in hindsight, I mean, as we're watching the movie, when we see this bird is the common theme, and she's been there from the beginning, really. And see, that's another thing. We don't know how many strings she's been pulling, how orchestrated this is.
Yeah.
You know,
we know from the beginning that Claudia wanted to marry Friedrich. That was made abundantly clear that she always wanted to marry this dude. We saw the Raven in the beginning, and it's just funny that I didn't really
love him though. They did make that a thing, like it just wasn't a plot for her to take over the kingdom, and I liked that where it was like she was really actually holding back just for him when it came to him.
She really did seem to care about Friedrich, which makes her different from a lot of the other evil queens, because most of the time the evil queen just married in to take it. But this one, she really seemed like she at least tried to be a part of the family. She tried, but then when Lily pushed her away, and she slowly slipped into madness she slowly...
I mean, like I said, like the dress, that's what did it for you?
The dress. Her wearing her mom's dress, and then the father being like, you look just like your mother. That word is what made her snap.
Like I said, I understand the fixed marriages in that day, but where do we get that you were married to this woman before that you had the baby by Lily's mother? Who is this woman? How did that work out that you want to marry her now? That bothered me too. That's a bad pick for me. I could see if she visited the kingdom a few times. This is her first time, and all of a sudden she's getting married. Where is the relationship built? It just happened. He knew her before he knew Lily's mother? They didn't say that though.
Something like that similarly happened in Ever After with the evil stepmother and Danielle's father. But see, the thing is it was established that Danielle's father would go to visit her in her land. He had been visiting her for such a long time that they decided to get married. And when the evil stepmother then comes to marry him was the first time she ever went to his kingdom. But they did establish that there was a relationship between the two before they came. But yeah, it never really stated anything on whether or not how long did he know this woman? Did he visit her often and things like that? It wasn't there.
Anything.
Yeah, anything that made them become appealed. Oh, and another thing was the dog. The dog was useless.
Yo, that was my next pick. That was one of my cons for the movie. I wrote the dog was misused.
The dog was useless.
Given to her like it's a big thing, and it never comes to be anything.
And it was something that the queen said too when she handed her the puppy. She's like, if you treat him well, he will become loyal to you. Yeah, she was so kind and so good to that dog. But in the end, the dog still fought for the queen. In the end,
dog was always, it was like the bird and every other animal, or the wolves in the beginning. And that's another thing. That's how you know the evil queen was pulling the strings. Them wolves that attacked that horse to make the carriage turn over, they were sent too. So this was all in play from the queen.
Yeah, because when the dog attacked Lily, I was just like, yeah, well, there goes, if you're loyal to him, he'll be loyal to you. It's like the dog didn't even try
Nothing.
Didn't even try to turn against the queen or anything. So it's just like, oh, so the dog was just a plant from the beginning that was always going to be there for the queen.
Like everything.
So,
yeah. And she just told her that so she would trust the dog. And being that this character is supposed to be very trusting, she did. Yeah, it was a spy like everything else.
Yeah, it was a spy like everything else.
Now you talk about something that could have been taken out. It never came to be anything. He wasn't.
I would have at least would have liked to see him turn against the queen, you know, like show a bit of loyalty to the one who's been taking care of him, other than just being a minion.
And my other con was the dwarf, the rapey dwarf.
Yeah.
Really? Did we really need that? I didn't care for that too much.
Yeah, it didn't need to be there because nothing came of it, honestly. It was just something that they tried to put in as like a shocking in the story.
Another con I had was they sold this as a totally different movie in the trailers, which hindered me from watching this. I've seen these trailers a long time ago. Then I stumbled on them a few years ago again, so I bought the movie about 2 years ago, maybe, again, and it just sat there. And every time we go to watch it, I'm like, nah. Had I known this movie was this good, I would have watched this a lot sooner. If trailers were better, I probably would have seen this years and years ago.
Yeah.
The trailers really sold this as it sold it as more horror, which, it is a horror movie at heart, but at the same time, it's not. The trailer sold a totally different movie, in my opinion. They did a bad job at marketing. So that's a con for me. And I'm pretty pissed because I missed a good movie.
This movie probably would have been a better watch in the 97.
It might have. And you know what? If the trailers were a little better, maybe it might not be such a cult classic. Maybe more people would know about it. And other than seeing, Sigourney Weaver did a Snow White story. But other than that, what attracts you to this movie if the trailers aren't good? I mean, I'm not saying they're bad, because they're not bad, but they're not that interesting to go to watch it. So, yeah.
Yeah, quite honestly, in my opinion, the trailers were very forgetful. I don't even remember them. Yeah.
The ending scene for me was a meh. I think the movie would have benefited for an extra 3 minutes of ending. Maybe you could have just wrapped it up a little better. Yeah, I wrote "It's snowing," really. I wrote that. Like, it's just like, I get it, Snow White, but, and I think that is pretty much it. Highlighted in my notes that the pacing was very well done. I was so shocked how good it was. What else? Maybe the movie does have more flaws than we're seeing, but I think Sigourney Weaver does so much heavy lifting in this movie, and she's so good that you tend not to notice the flaws as much, because she's such a presence when it's on screen, you don't see.
I'd have to agree with that, because her character of Claudia was one of the reasons why I was very, very into this movie. It was just that it seemed like Sigourney had such a fun time playing this character. Claudia is by far the best character in this movie.
She will be what we remember. Even if we never watched this movie for a long time, we will remember her.
The character of Claudia and Sigourney Weaver's performance will definitely be the one thing I do remember about this movie if I revisit it like 10 years from now.
And that's pretty much my notes. Overall, I enjoyed this movie, and I'm pleasantly surprised. To be honest with you, Ray, I expected to be a little slightly disappointed. I didn't think I was going to hate it.
Yeah.
Just from the trailers, I thought this was going to be like, I could have watched something else. Like,
actually, I was right there with you. I was just kind of like, okay, time for the Snow White Tale of Terror. Let's see what they do. Even the name is kind of like silly if you think about it. A Tale of Terror.
I don't know why I used to always call it Snow White Terror Tale. I don't know why I used to call it that, but yeah, A Tale of Terror. I mean, she was terrible. I mean,
I'd have to say, next to like Disney's original animation, comparing this to all the other ones I've watched, I like this one. Yeah, I like this one.
This is my favorite. Like, I'm not, anybody that's listening, I'm not going to sell it to you like this is the greatest movie ever, but this was a hell of a good movie. And as far as Snow White, this is, in my opinion, this is the best I've seen this story told.
Yeah, like I gave it a 3 out of 5 as like my final rating, which is better than what Snow White and the Huntsman got from me. Snow White and the Huntsman, the only thing that saved that movie was Charlize Theron, where it's like this movie does have more to offer. I actually do like Lily in this movie, unlike how I liked Snow White and Snow White and the Huntsman.
And I just naturally like Monica Keena. Almost in everything I've ever seen her in, I find her kind of charming. I think she's just as well cast.
It's the scenes that matter that she pulls off. Like in the scene when she approaches Claudia after Claudia had the miscarriage and everything like that, and she apologizes and she's like, I never meant to hurt you and things like that. Like she really shined in that scene. Yeah, that scene really brought Lily out, because at first I really wasn't liking Lily, because I'm like pushing, you know, like the evil queen being behind everything from the beginning kind of thing, which I miss. It's understandable, but you know, she's really rude to Claudia. And throwing wine on her during her wedding was not kind.
I think we differ on that. And like I said, kids know she was right. And ultimately,
yeah, she was right. But, you know, when Claudia was really hurt and really in pain, it's like that's when Lily's personality really shined through. And you really saw her in who she is as a person in that moment. And I think Monica Keene did an amazing job in that scene. You really felt her emotion through it. Like, you really could tell that she felt bad. Like I said, like, when it really mattered, important scenes happened. All those scenes were very well acted by Monica Keene.
Right.
I keep comparing this movie to Ever After, but it's very similar. If you ever see Ever After, this movie's very similar.
I guess I'm gonna have to, because I've heard it so many times. I'm gonna have to watch Ever After.
Oh yeah, it's so good. See, the father in Ever After has less screen time. He's only in the movie maybe like, I don't know, 6 minutes, maybe less. Very, very short screen time. But
well, to be honest, that probably would have happened here if it wasn't Sam Neill. They probably gave him a little bit more screen time off of who he was at the time.
It's just in the little time that we did see him in Ever After, he was such an impactful character. And when I see this movie and I see Lily's father, I'm just like, I don't see it. He's in the movie longer than the father was in Ever After. Right. Because like even when Lily was around and he spent time with Lily, like, yeah, they had some sweet moments. I don't know. It just, I didn't get the same father-daughter love as I did in Ever After. It was just, I don't know. There was like a conflict with actors there or something.
I mean, there's critiques, and I don't know if that's me being overly critiqued, but in a nutshell, I enjoyed this movie. This is another movie, a testament to practical effects, big and small, because look what a small budget can do. Bring back practical effects. I know that's, you know.
Oh, they should, though. That's why this movie looks so good. Right. You compare this movie to a lot of like newer movies with all that special effects, and this movie looks so much better. Practical effects is where it's at.
And it's going to probably still age better, because if we're enjoying it this much in from 97 to now, we're enjoying it this much, and we barely care for the one that was made, what? How many years ago was that? Not even 10 years ago? So it's just, which one is going to age better at the end of the day? Bring back practical effects. This is what happens when you take a character serious. Not saying no slight to Charlize Theron. She did her thing. She was the best thing in that movie as well. But everybody fit their role. I don't know if this is the same movie if it's made today. I think they take different liberties. But I just wish they can get back to filmmaking like this. It's hard to score this movie because I could see its flaws, but at the same time, I really enjoyed it, and I am super shocked. I don't know if I'm overrating this movie because I was shocked at how much I enjoyed it.
Actually, I was going to be harsher on it and give it a 2.5, but then I was just like, I don't know, after having this conversation and everything like that, like, it really did remind me how much I do like this movie. So I'm like, I have to give it a 3 out of 5.
Out of 5, I might give it 3.4. Like, honestly, I just don't know. Maybe on the second watch, I'll feel differently, but I will say this, Sigourney Weaver, in my opinion, this is a top 3 performance that I've seen. And I know people are going to be out the window when they hear me say that. I enjoyed her in this more than, I know Ghostbusters was a better movie, but guys, like, she is better in this than she is in Ghostbusters. For sure. So,
she is way better in this movie than she is in Ghostbusters. But you know what? You know, after bringing up Snow White and the Huntsman, I think Snow White and the Huntsman was heavily influenced by this movie. Because now that I think of it, even like thinking back at Charlize Theron's Evil Queen,
there's a lot there.
She's very, very similar to Sigourney Weaver's Evil Queen. Like they had the similar mommy issues. They had the brother who always disappointed his sister. You know, I think that movie pulled a lot from this movie. And I think if more people knew about this movie with Sigourney Weaver, they would like it better.
And I actually think whoever wrote that movie probably thought this was a good movie and it didn't get its due. They redid it. And when they wrote it for Charlize Theron, when they cast her, whoever wrote it probably had this movie in mind, took the best things about that movie and tried to re-inject them into their film. Or maybe Charlize Theron watched this and seen it because
inspired her Evil Queen off of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, next to the original Evil Queen, this is the best Evil Queen of every movie I've watched. Even the original Snow White, this Evil Queen. And I would have to say, next to the original Disney movie, this is probably my second favorite after the original Disney animation.
That's saying something, right? For you to see this just yesterday, you watched it yesterday, right?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday.
Me too. So to say that's high praise. I'm sure we will feel a lot different when we rewatch it one day. I think it is cemented in me that this is a top 3 performance from Sigourney Weaver, and I think this is no question my favorite iteration of Snow White.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there next to like the original Disney animation for me. And the Disney animation is not even really all that great of a story, like story-wise. Character-wise, it's great because like it focuses heavily on the dwarves in the animation, and so it really brings out the dwarves and how much they change around being around Snow White. Snow White and Evil Queen don't change much.
Mm-hmm.
But see, that's where this movie does it better, because this one's more centered around the Evil Queen and Snow White. I don't know. I like it. It's probably... it is my favorite live-action Snow White. Out of the live-action, it is the best. Yes.
Right. As you can hear, I guess we've been carrying this out for a while, but we both really enjoyed it. I recommend it. I hope more people watch this. I hope people listen to this whole thing and gather. Sorry, I didn't announce spoiler review before we started, but we spoiled the whole damn, like at least 98%.
Well, I guess when you post this, you can put it in the description. No spoiler.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah, we went into great detail of this movie. We basically told you everything.
So, Ray, I want to thank you so much for watching this. I'm glad we could do this. I'm glad we clicked on this idea to do this, and hopefully we can do another one in the future.
Oh, most definitely. I would be down for doing more of these.
So what you got for the month of February coming up for your channel?
I wanted to do a full movie collection, although I might break it up into sections, like do DVDs, steelbooks, and things like that. Break it up like that. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to do a complete movie collection because my collection's changed a lot since then. I'm still going to do my monthly update. Other than that, I'm not too sure what I'm going to be doing channel-wise other than movie collection. We'll see. And hey, actually, we should probably do one of these on Ever After.
You know what? Yeah, we might have to lock that in. Because at this point, how could I not?
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen the movie, but it's been a while. I could rewatch it and write and take some notes. You have never seen Ever After, so... Well,
you heard it here, folks. That'll be the next one. Stay tuned. I want to thank my guests. Catch you on the next one. Kal-El Daily.
LEIGH'S movies.
All right, guys.
Or just Ray.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.